Hello listeners, this is David from In the Lap of the Pods Queen podcast, and you are listening to another episode of Trimming the Musical Fat. Slanjava.
I love gold. The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it, the texture. I love gold so much that I even lost my genitalia in an unfortunate smelting accident. Hence the name Gold Member.
Welcome to Trimming the Musical Fat. I'm Paul Nicholson.
And I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And thanks again for joining us for the latest episode in our Hidden Prime Cuts series, where we highlight a song by a band or singer which we feel deserve more attention, i.e. it was a B-side or an unreleased track, or a single that wasn't a big hit or so well known. Today we're going to be talking about a 1987 single by English pop band Duran Duran and the song Skin Trade. Before we discuss it and introduce our guests, let's hear that song in question. Okay, so that was Skin Trade by Duran Duran. Stephen, can you tell us some facts about the song?
Yes, I can. So I'll do that while giving my opinion as well. It was actually in October last year, while I was away on holiday. This song came on the radio in the car, and it was the first time I'd heard it in years. And it's a great song, and it just got me thinking back to when it first came out, when I was really first starting to get into music. So I suppose to give people context, so when I first started getting into music, and around about the age of 10, Duran Duran were one of the biggest bands in the world, and I knew them from things like Wild Boys, The Reflex, Hungry Like a Wolf, and maybe most notably A View to a Kill. So when the band released their Notorious single in 1986, I noticed it was a significant change of sound for them, and I actually really liked the song, still do. And it was very successful, getting to number 2 in the US and number 7 in the UK. But the album, though, the album was called Notorious as well. It only got to number 16 in the UK and number 12 in the US, which for them was a significant drop compared to their previous releases. So then they released Skin Trade, and when I actually first heard it, I didn't know it was Duran Duran. You thought, is it them or is it not? I think because, first of all, Simon LeBon is kind of channeling Prince's falsetto in the lead vocal. Although latterly I found out his inspiration was more Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones on Emotional Rescue. So that apparently that was the inspiration, which I didn't know till recently. And I think secondly, the sound of it is very Let's Dance era David Bowie. So, the horns and the prominent bass to the fore, which is down to the production by producer Nile Rodgers of Chic fame, who of course produced Bowie's Let's Dance album. So, that all said, how did the song do? It only got to number 22 in the UK and 39 in the US. And that was the first time since the band's earliest releases that a single of theirs had failed to go top 20 on both sides of the Atlantic. And Duran Duran bass player John Taylor has since been quoted as saying that his disillusion with the charts started when Skin Trade didn't go top 20 in the UK. So I don't get it. I didn't get it then, and I still don't. I think it's one of the band's best songs. And I can only put it down to it being quite different for the band at the time. So I know it's certainly a fan favourite. And we, of course, seen the band live, 12 years ago at Edinburgh Castle?
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah, 12, 13 years ago. And this got a great reaction, played it. But yeah, what I like about it, I think the Niles Rodgers production is great. I think LeBon's falsetto sounds really good. It does sound like Prince doing Kiss or something like that. Very funky verses, great chorus. I love the horns on the chorus. But the best bit for me is the two chords that are played after the chorus. Which I think is maybe a C to a B, and then it builds back up to the verses. So yeah, great song. Listen to Paul and I's guest appearance on Marv's excellent Pods Like Us podcast. There we go, history lesson over. What do you like about it?
Yeah, it's really catchy, and as you say, it does sound, because it was just around the same time Prince did Kiss. Is that around that?
Prince did Kiss in 86.
Yes, it'd be the same year. So, yeah, it just makes me think of that, but almost sounds a wee bit like In Excess maybe as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's a brilliant song. I remember when it came out, really liking it and getting the greatest album called Decade and really loving the song.
Mm-hmm.
And quite surprised, it didn't fare as well, but I wonder if that was more to do with musical landscape at the time, because I remember reading an article in the late 90s, it's so true. It was about Live Aid, and it said that Live Aid was like a sort of watershed moment where for half the acts that came on, it catapulted them, maybe not even at that, maybe even less, it catapulted them on to like greater stardom, obviously, U2, Queen. But like, it also killed a lot of the acts as well. It was almost like, actually, that period's over now. And obviously Duran Duran had A View to a Kill, which is absolutely an amazing song. But I wonder after that if they were, because obviously their performance at Live Aid was so bad, unfortunately, they don't even release it, never gets permission to be viewed. And I wonder if they just weren't as relevant after that, like from 85 onwards, after 85. And it's not to say they didn't do good stuff, but it feels like almost like the public, maybe there wasn't as much appetite for them, maybe.
This is Eric Paul Johnson from Face the Music, an Electric Light Orchestra song-by-song podcast. And you're listening to Trimming the Musical Fat. Oh dear. That wasn't my fat I trimmed.
Don't know, would you think about that? Or
well, you tend to find that groups with a pop groups who have a large teen female following do have a certain lifespan because those teenagers then grow up and the musical tastes change. But you still retain a core audience, but it does mean that you're not as, in terms of sales and such, like you're not as popular. So yeah, I would agree with that. Obviously, style moves on, and you do find that. I mean, there's lots of cases over the years where a hugely popular band comes back, maybe after a year or two, and you think, and then the record tanks. Remember, the same happened to Spandau Ballet. They came back, and again they were hugely popular, but then just the passage of time, people move on. Maybe
it comes back round as well, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Yeah. So with most bands and most musical styles, some bands or musical styles become, or both become passé, and then they're kind of in the wilderness for years, and then it swings back round and there's nostalgia. Usually those people, when they like the band, have grown up and are maybe now in their 30s, 40s, and maybe
their children.
And their
children get into it.
Yeah, and they swing back round to it again and go, oh, they were great. It was, even, for example, a good example, Take That.
Yeah.
Great.
So I didn't like them initially, but I liked when they came back. That first album they did was really good. You know, I didn't like them first time round.
But even you have a lot of the kind of what we'd call hair metal bands who, couldn't get arrested once alternative rock rose to prominence in the early 90s. Grunge, those kind of bands couldn't get arrested. I don't want to put Iron Maiden as an example in there, because they're not hair metal as such, but that style of rock was passé. But then it swung around, and now Iron Maiden, and have been for a while now, are viewed very, very fondly.
And any other facts you'd like to tell us, Stephen, about the...
I was going to ask you, I don't know if you know, you know how they used Nile Rodgers on the Notorious album? Do you know why? Was it because he worked with Bowie on Let's Dance, or was it because of his, obviously his work with Chic, being part of Chic? That's something. I've never seen that in the research I done.
I don't know, but I just know he was quite hot property at the time, because he'd also done Diana Ross, her album, and he'd done Sister Sledge, and he'd done obviously Let's Dance was like David Bowie, like a massive success. So I don't know is the answer, but I'd imagine it's probably just because he was regarded at the time as a really hot producer. And even his, about maybe 10 years ago, his popularity's come full cycle as well. Nile Rodgers, and because there was a big Disco Sucks thing, wasn't there, in the late 70s, early 80s, and he was kind of blacklisted because of that. But that's why he became a producer, and he did like Let's Dance and stuff. And Madonna, I think he did like a Virgin album. I think he produced that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, he would be probably the top producer at the time. That's probably why they went for him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Looking for some of his magic.
So it's last orders at the bar. Thanks for listening. We're off to feed some hungry wolves. Be sure to come back again for more Hidden Prime cuts. Until then, keep trimming.
Trimming the Musical Fat podcast is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. Contact us via voicemail by going to anchor.fm/TTMF/message, or tweet us at musical trimming, or email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date on the show by joining our Facebook group or visiting our website www.trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Or support us financially by going to Patreon and getting some great podcast exclusives.
I love gold!
Next Patreon episode is a Trimming the Classic dedicated to the Beatles' Abbey Road. Next full episode is on Def Leppard's Hysteria album.